What compels a man to finally put it all down in black and white?
Well, I think you have a sense of responsibility. I think you want to pay homage to a lot of people that had something to do with, you know, getting where you are. And also because about 10 years ago, there was a terribly unfortunate thing that happened in my life. I was appearing in 4 pictures on Broadway. I had, I think, Lawrence of Arabia, Requiem for a Heavyweight, Barabbas, and some other picture. I think it was Guns of Navarone at the time.
They were all at some Broadway theater.
Yes, and over on the side, there was a big, in lights, Anthony Quinn and St. Laurence Olivier in Beckett. And believe it or not, they had this luncheon for me. These very nice ladies with their peculiar little bonnets with strawberries on them. And I suddenly found myself on the stage, on the dais, and here I found myself saying terrible inanities like, gee, I'm not really worth it, and I feel a terrible failure, and I don't know why this is being done to me, because I really haven't produced anything worthwhile. And much to my amazement, as I could see out in the audience, I see that these poor ladies, I was really being very ungracious. And as I was going out of the, out of this hotel, out of the luncheon, this one actor stopped me and he said, I think you're a phony. And I think, he says, if you're not a success, then who in the world is? And I suddenly found myself realizing that I'd been terribly ungracious, and I started running across Central Park, and I suddenly realized I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown, obviously, because if that's not success, at least that's what we think of as success. And I went to a psychiatrist and asked for help. I said, you know, what is going to make a man feel like success? And we found out that there was a little boy, 11 years old, who kept bugging me. And of course, that little 11-year-old boy was me back there somewhere. And I contend that when you're a young boy, excuse me, if I talk too much, you can interrupt anytime you want. But anyway, I contend that somewhere along the line, as you're growing up, you kind of pull back the string and you aim at a target. And then as you grow up into adult life and you start making concessions, you veer off that target many times. And what people, the average person, thinks is success, that subconscious of yours knows it's not success because he wants you to go another route. And then it's actually making the deal with yourself as to when you're going to put the negative and the positive together and get back into focus, that's all.
I can understand that actor saying that to you, though. I mean, you know, an actor who's out of work or not as successful as you, and he sees you with 4 movies and a play on Broadway,
Yes.
he probably would be happy at that moment if he had those things. But the fact is, when you get those things, then something else is your
That's
problem.
right. And I just wonder, you see, in the first place, my whole thing of becoming an actor was an accident. I had no intention of being an actor. I started out by wanting to be an architect, and I think that the kid always bugged me because he wanted to be an architect. Now, a very strange thing happened. When I started acting merely to earn enough money so I could go back to school and study architecture. And I gave myself my first 5-year plan. I said, all right, I'll do it for 5 years, make enough money, then go back. And obviously, after I acquired all the accoutrements of success and the status symbols, I said, well, I think I'll give myself 5 more years. And I kept asking the kid for 5 years, till finally he said, wait a minute, you know, it's been 25 years now, let's get back. And so I had to write the book to get back to the kid.
Was it any kind of therapy for you to write the book, to get it out? I mean, some of the things in there, you must have had a debate with yourself whether you wanted people knowing that much about you.
I don't know. I think that if you live a life, and I think that if you have something to say, you get it said. In the first place, as an actor, you're always dealing with other people's themes. You're always dealing with somebody else's idea of content. And having come from the theater of social conscience theater, having come from a springboard of the group theater where we all had a kind of and the Depression, a child of the Depression, I think that we all had a kind of a feeling that we wanted to say something about our times. And I just felt that I was always being just a part of what somebody else wanted to say. I was never getting it said myself. So I felt that the only way to do it was to do it by writing a book.
Did writing a book...
You scare me more than he does, by the way.
want to know
Resent
because
that.
I have these problems too. I mean, everything you're saying, I hear an echo in my head. I fell into acting by mistake, and I studied to be and was going to be a commercial artist. I took outside art classes and everything else, and I've deviated away from it and haven't, drawn or painted a thing in years now. And I was wondering if writing the book satisfied your need for building a structure for architecture. Did
It's
it?
very interesting because actually most of the great actors, and it's a very interesting thing. For instance, Jack Barrymore actually started out by wanting to be a cartoonist. And he never had any intention of being an actor. I don't know whether you know this, but Laurence Olivier, for instance, started out by being a preacher. He had no intention of being a preacher. He started studying elocution and taking diction lessons so that he could be a better preacher. And suddenly he found himself caught up in acting. And what she's saying is quite true. It's amazing what happens to someone. Sometimes you start acting quite by accident, and this thing that you wanted to do keeps yanking at you, keeps hauling you back. And you have a great difficulty because you say, well, certainly what I'm doing seems to be right, seems to be going the right place, but something way down in the depths of you says it's not so. Now, a very interesting thing happens since people have read the book, and I think I've made people conscious of their own subconscious, so to speak, that many people come up to me and say, I know the boy because I have a boy or girl in my life. She's either 10 years old or she's 13. And I think that we have to make peace with the subconscious in ourselves.
I wonder now, have you laid that ghost to rest though, or does this 11-year-old kid that you were still
You know,
appear?
people, I don't know. It's interesting because to me he's a very real. He's an entity. He sits here beside me. I mean, he's
talk
not
to
a
him in the
ghost.
book.
I mean, he's not a ghost. He's somebody that I have to deal with as if he was another. It's not a schizophrenia, but I mean, it is a reality that I have to deal with constantly.